Hi, I'm Art Erdman, Director of the Earl E. Bakken Medical Devices Center at the University of Minnesota. It's my pleasure to introduce this year's recipient of the DMD Conference Award. We've been giving out this award for a number of years for outstanding dedication to the medical device community over a sustained period of time. Let me review some of our past awardees. Starting in 2006, Peter Gove, Vice President of St. Jude, received the award. Next was Dale Wallstrom, who was at Medtronic at the time and at Medical Alley later and other companies. Fred Cohen from Boston Scientific was Executive Vice President at that time. Next recipient was Becky Bergman, who was a Vice President at Medtronic and now is the president of Gustavus Adolphus University in central Minnesota. Richard Nazarian was next. He was a co-founder, president, and CEO of Minitronics. Next award was to Tim Lasky, a vice president of Medtronic. Norm Dan was next, a very early vice president of Medtronic. Spent a lot of years being a venture capitalist and a long time since the beginning of the Medical Devices Center in 2007, a mentor to the program. Randy Sistel from Boston Scientific, Vice President of Global Research, is next. Justin Herter was our next recipient from Delft University, and he helped us bring the DMD conference to Europe. Susan Alpert was a recipient originally at FDA, at Medtronic for a while, and now being a consultant for many firms around the world. Steve Osterly from Medtronic, and now a consultant for a variety of private equity firms. Earl E. Bakken, very appropriately, was our next recipient, and as most of you know, he started the whole cluster of medical device companies in Minnesota and beyond. Dawn Bardot was our last recipient. She was originally a fellow in our Medical Devices Center, went out to California as a vice president of a company. She was at MDIC, Medtronic, and now she is at Biomed. This year's recipient, the 14th, is David Knapp from Boston Scientific. David is currently the Vice President of Corporate Research. He's also a board member at Boston Scientific and their foundation and a number of other positions. David received his bachelor's degree in Chemie from Michigan and his Ph.D. from another U of M, that's University of Minnesota, in Chemie as well. He's a member of a number of advisory boards, including at the University of Minnesota, IEM, the Institute of Engineering for Medicine, also Chemical Engineering and Computer Science. He's also an advisory board at University of Michigan, BME, and at Johns Hopkins, he's an advisory board for the Center for Bioengineering, Innovation and Design. So we have all had a lot of adjustments that we have made for COVID-19. Of course, we have had to make the same adjustments here at the Medical Devices Center DMD conference. Normally, his talk would have already happened in April in front of 475 or 500 people at the Alumni Center on campus. But we have all made adjustments, and we're very pleased that he is still agreeable to give a talk after this introduction. Many reasons for David's award this year. He is a past speaker at the DMD conference. He is often a speaker at our Innovation Fellows Boot Camp. He has sponsored research at the Innovation Fellows Program and also at the Bakken Medical Devices Center. He always has kind words of encouragement. He is always happy to transfer his wisdom to those at IEM and MDC and others. He's a true visionary for the medical device industry. Now let me turn over this virtual stage to David Knapp.
Thank you for joining me virtually today, and special thanks to Art and the entire DMD and U of M team for adapting to help us connect even if we can't physically be together. It's a huge honor to accept this DMD award, and it was enabled through the support of many teachers, mentors, and collaborators along the way. For that, I am truly grateful. You know, it's the most fitting time in history to reflect on the importance of healthcare innovation. In light of the pandemic, there's even more demand and urgency to deliver high-quality care and relieve burden on the healthcare system. And as protests in recent weeks have emphasized, our innovations are meaningless if they aren't accessible to everyone who needs them. To take on these challenges, I found, like many of you, that the core principles I learned here at the U have served me well throughout my career. In particular, the importance of a mechanistic approach to problem solving. It's not enough to understand what's happening. It's crucial to understand why and how. Having spent my career in this space, I'm more convinced than ever that the foundational principles of innovation, understanding unmet needs, empathy, and collaboration are exactly what we need to build the next normal. Now, even before the pandemic, the push towards digital health created opportunities for innovation. Then the need became more urgent. This is being driven by trends and consumerism and engaging caregivers, so many of whom are non-professionals. Boston Scientific innovations like HeartLogic, which uses AI to predict worsening heart failure weeks in advance, have been major milestones to help care become more proactive rather than reactive. In light of COVID-19, tools like augmented reality have gone from nice to have to essential, and we're seeing signs that could point towards a tele-first healthcare paradigm. Regardless of the tool or platform, the key is to identify the need and respond to it. Now, it's the understatement of the century. Healthcare is a complex space with all of its stakeholders and functions. That complexity demands collaboration because no one person or group has the entire perspective. Everyone likes to talk about collaboration, but for us, it's really a way of operating. The bustling healthcare sector in Minnesota, including prestigious medical institutions and some of the world's top device makers, is a perfect environment for multiple paths to innovation. In March 2018, we teamed up with the Mayo Clinic, the University of Minnesota, and the Medical Alley Association to create the G-Beta MedTech along with the Generator Accelerator, helping to create hands-on mentorship and access to funding, along with an instant support network for startups in medical devices, diagnostics, drug treatments, digital health, and related fields. And for nearly a decade, we've collaborated with the Mayo Clinic, working side by side, evaluating ideas, developing prototypes, and conducting feasibility studies. Results to date, 8 patent applications, 3 technology licenses, and 2 first-in-human clinical trials. It's a great start. And last July, we announced a new joint innovation accelerator called Motion Medical, located in Rochester, aiming to accelerate the development of new minimally invasive treatments. So great future ahead. We've also long had meaningful collaborations right here with the U, and several just in the last few months, focusing on acute needs in the pandemic. Coventor, which is an emergency resuscitator, the University of Minnesota had the initial idea. Boston Scientific joined along with United Health Group, Medtronic, and others to bring it to life and manufacture it. An agile, effective team, one of the best I've seen in my time in medtech. And NewMask, snorkel-based face shield, which was a much larger consortium, and it was anchored out of Stanford, and a great example of how a lot of players can realize they're going after the same problem and work together rather than compete to solve it faster. So By working together and looking for connections everywhere, we have the potential to scale our impact exponentially. So, in the midst of all this action, what's at the heart of it all? Listening, the importance of the voice of the customer, they lead and start with the understanding the clinical need. We start with observing as much as possible, just like the Medical Devices Center teaches its fellows every year, and not necessarily defining the problem the way that the customer does, because sometimes they don't see a problem, but there's an opportunity, and paying attention and reading between the lines. Really, the foundation is empathy, seeking to understand rather than to be understood. The pandemic has brought this home. In the heart of a shared global experience, many of us found more common ground than we may have realized, but it's not unique to medtech. That same idea is at the heart of so many long overdue discussions we're having on social justice and inclusion. When we seek to understand before seeking to be understood, when we start with empathy, we can create systems and solutions that work for everyone, not just a select few. So we've been long seeing a growing burden of chronic disease, from cardiovascular and metabolic conditions to cancer as a chronic condition, and we only expect it to rise. We've also known that these diseases have a disproportionate impact on Black Americans and on other patients from historically marginalized groups. At Boston Scientific, we've been working in health equity for 15 years with our Close the Gap program, prioritizing patient education, provider training, and diversity in clinical trials. But it's not enough, and we're doing more to double down and accelerate these efforts. So, in conclusion, we've learned a lot along the way. Maybe most importantly, we've been reminded that we can't just trust conventional wisdom. This has been a way of life for so many of us in our journeys in medtech. On all these fronts, the real work is still ahead. As we create the new normal together, let's use all the tools we already had, listening, understanding, empathy, to make sure we build something that works for all of us. Thank you.
Hello again. As conference co-chair, along with Paul Izio and Will Durfee, I've been asked to do a wrap-up of our session so far for DMD, virtual DMD 2020. 2020 has not been the year any of us expected. I hope and pray that you and your loved ones are safe. We've all had to make a number of adjustments due to COVID-19, and of course our executive committee has had to make some decisions as well and adjust. We have converted, as you know, to virtual sessions. I can't thank enough our sponsors who have provided resources to help offset some of our losses. I also want to thank Jenny and Trish, who you, I think, know if you've been at conferences, because they never stop working on DMD, and they're the best of the best, so thank you. I suggest that you visit our website, which is www.dmd.umn.edu, because there you'll find lots of information about all the volunteers that support our program, including those that review papers, session chairs, and so forth. Without the tremendous support over the years of volunteers, we wouldn't have been able to pull off these conferences. We're here to serve you, and therefore please provide us feedback, particularly on the virtual sessions we've had, and what topics you'd like to see us cover. Because if you're not happy and don't attend, then there's no reason for us to hold this conference. So please, please, please give us that kind of feedback. We've been able to keep the costs down particularly for the students over all these years, because of all the volunteers and the terrific staff that we have. So I think that we've had virtual sessions, a number of them, and I'm told through today, which is, there are 2 more to go, we've had over 3,000 views. So that's a measure of success, I believe. As a quick review, we've had a virtual poster presentation, our 3 and 5 competition, cybersecurity, evaluation competition with the help of the Carlson Business School. We had a COVID rapid response product session, had a biosensor session, wearables, dental devices, and today you heard from our awardee, David Knapp. So looking forward to next year, 2021. The dates set are April 12th through 15th, and things going really well. We'll continue to be at the Graduate Hotel and Alumni Center right next to campus. A very special year, our 20th anniversary. It's really hard to believe. Starting in 2001, it'll be the 20th anniversary. So one way or another, we'll be running the conference. Over those years, actually through the 18th year, we had over 17,000 attendees. Again, one measure of success. This is going to be a special conference next year. I can tell you that whether it's virtual or non-virtual or partially virtual, we're going to make it a very special event. So please circle those dates on the calendar, and of course keep track of our website and notices we send out. If you're not on our mailing list, please let us know. We expect to have some of our traditional events like the 510K race, call for papers, a mixture of clinical, engineering, and science sessions. Lots of sessions as usual. Our emerging technology forum will likely be AI in medical devices. We hope for the usual 1,200 or so attendees at the conference next year. We promise, as a staff and executive committee, continue to serve you. We welcome your feedback. The Institute of Engineering for Medicine, under the leadership of John Bischoff, will likely hold 4 or 5 other conferences during that same week of April 12th. So keep posted on that, and likely be called Innovation Week in Minnesota. So on behalf of our entire DMD team, please stay safe, social distance, and please join us next year in April. Bye-bye.